I'm not going to move too much, although that's really difficult when you have Parkinson's, so we'll see what happens. Can you actually hear me? Yes. Okay, great. I'm Emma. I'm currently 33, but I was actually diagnosed at the age of 29 with Parkinson's disease. It came as a bit of a shock, as you'd expect. I'm not a 60-year-old man, so it was not what was expected for me in my path. And it came after a strange feeling in my right hand for probably about a year that I'd been ignoring. I just didn't feel quite right. I felt weak and I felt like I couldn't do things that I used to be able to do. My friends at work referred to my hand as the claw. If you'd seen the Jim Carrey film, Liar, Liar, the claw. I can do it well for you now. And I ignored it because I was busy and because I was 29 and because my life was more than going to the doctors and important things like that. And I didn't want to go and get it checked out because I was worried and I was concerned about what it might be. But I was thinking carpal tunnel, trapped nerve, at worst it was going to be something like that. And then I was at my dad's 60th birthday party and he'd been concerned for a long time. He shook my hand a lot whenever I saw him, which seemed like a really formal greeting from your dad. But he was testing the strength really sneakily every time I saw him to see whether I was getting weaker. And I could always tell that he was concerned. And I was at my dad's 60th birthday party and a friend of ours who's a nurse said to me, "What's wrong with your arm?" And I thought, oh, for God's sake, I've been dodging it for a year. She's in healthcare, so people are going to listen to her. And I promised my dad as the worst birthday present ever that I'd go to the doctors and get it sorted. I think I got him something else as well, don't worry. And I went to the doctors and she had me walking up and down and I thought, they're legs, love. I don't know what you're thinking, but this is in my arm. This is the problem we're having in my arm. And she said, you don't swing your arm when you walk. And I didn't really know what that meant or what that had to do with anything. And she sent me for a neurologist appointment. And again, I didn't know what neurology was. I Googled it a bit and it came up with some sort of things that sounded scary. But I still wasn't concerned. I went to the appointment by myself without my grown-ups. And I was completely sort of unaccompanied. And they said to me, there's a few things it could be, but we're going to send you for brain scans. It could be Parkinson's disease, it could be Wilson's disease, or it could be Huntington's disease. And I Googled all of them, and I was actually rooting for Parkinson's because I wouldn't die from it. I think that's probably the only time anyone's ever said that they're rooting for Parkinson's. And I went back to work, and in a cruel twist of fate, where they'd said to me, don't think about any of these conditions, I was actually working on the Parkinson's UK, which is the big charity website at work at that point in time. So on every computer around me, it was there wherever I looked. And the more I read up on it, the more I thought, this might be what I have. This could be what I have. And it scared me, but it was an answer. And I felt sort of liberated by having an answer. And I went to my appointment where they told me what I had, and I took my grown-ups this time because I realised we were onto something big. And they told me it was Parkinson's, and I felt relieved. But also I was scared. I didn't really know what the future held. All my plans as a 29-year-old were not kind of proper plans. It was, going out, what I was going to buy next, where I was going to see my friends the next time I saw them. But I had those kind of plans in the future of having children, settling down, continuing my career. And suddenly I was a bit worried, to say the least, that actually some of those things might not happen anymore. And I was okay at first. I was all right. I was confident about it. My family and friends were around me and they were hugely supportive. But I found myself slowly falling into the trap of saying no to stuff. And I'd previously been not the most positive person, but a positive person. I said yes to things. I did as much as I could. I went out and I tried new things. But my friends would say to me, do you want to go to the pub? And I'd say, oh, no, I don't think I will. I'll leave it. Because I hadn't worked out how to talk to people about it yet. And that was the biggest deal for me, was knowing what to say so that they knew what to say back to me, so that I didn't get that little tilty-headed pity face that people pull at you when they don't know what to say, when you're actually okay with what you're dealing with. And so I became a bit kind of lonely. I was living with a boy, but I was finding that I was kind of separating myself from him a little bit because I didn't really know how to talk about it. And I'd not go to these drinks events, and I'd not go to the pub, and I'd not go and do things my friends were doing. And then I'd sit at home and I'd get upset because I was frustrated and angry and stubborn about the fact that Parkinson's was doing this to me. And it was only one day that I sat there, and I can actually see it clearly in my head as the day that my whole outlook on Parkinson's changed. I realised if Parkinson's was a person, would I have let them do this to me? Would I have let them stop me from doing what I was doing? Because I'm an incredibly stubborn person. And I think stubbornness is actually another word for perseverance, if we're honest. And I thought I would have fought it back, but because it's not a person, I'm letting it win, because I don't know how to deal with it, and because it's just too big. It's too big a life thing to know how to deal with it and how to work out what you're going to do with your life with this on your back the whole time. So I looked at the way that I dealt with things previously before, smaller things. And I thought, if I break this down into smaller things, so if it's not about Parkinson's, it's about the 99 other things, for instance. 99 works because it's kind of comedy, but there's probably more than 99 if we're honest. If we break that down into the things that annoy me most day to day about my life and about it, then it becomes not about Parkinson's, it becomes 99 really annoying things that I can actually try and outwit somehow. So let's take the top line. Flying. Flying is difficult when you have Parkinson's, and suddenly it becomes a bit of a nightmare because people are constantly watching you to see whether you look suspicious. And I look suspicious. So I've tried to kind of combat that by flying as much as I can, looking really suspicious and just dealing with it. But I realise it's something that's in my head. It's something that actually I am creating, and I'm making myself feel bad about this. And I get to have adventures abroad, and, I don't care what anyone else thinks. Timing, I'm always late to everything. I was actually here on time today, which is a miracle, but I almost missed my train, so could have been very bad. I have to make sure that I leave enough time for everything. I have to factor in that time. And by leaving myself contingency, I actually can get to places on time and kind of vaguely respectably dressed and things like that. Financially, I have to get a lot of taxis. But actually, I see them as a treat, as a luxury, and it becomes part of my spend that I'm happy to do. Children. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. But I do know that when I'm awake at 2 a.m. because I can't sleep, it would be great to have someone there to keep me company who could annoy me as much as I'd annoy them. Maybe I'll just get a pet, we'll see. Catching things. People throw stuff to me all the time. Someone threw one of those speedball things at me once, and it hit me in the head, and I kind of dodged it, but I felt embarrassed that I couldn't catch it. I find telling people that you have Parkinson's is useful in a sort of scenario where there are balls around. Bananas, or fruit in general. Someone actually messaged me with Parkinson's the other day to say that they'd successfully peeled an orange. I think that celebration between each other is a great thing that you should have. Baths and anything sort of heat related. I find my Parkinson's actually makes I have like a patch that I wear on my leg, and it's metal backed. And so anything sort of heat related just burns and burns and burns. So baths are not my friend anymore. Take showers. I won't go through the rest of the line because there's a lot of things on here. But my point is, suddenly if you tackle all those little things that make your day-to-day annoying, you can outwit a lot of them. There's probably ones on here I'm still waiting to tick off. It's like bingo, if we're honest. I'm constantly kind of trying to find ways of coping with them. But it suddenly becomes lots of smaller things that you can find ways to beat. You can beat them through sharing conversations with people. You can beat them through little tactics or hacks. You can beat them through technology. There's kind of technological ways you can beat these things. You can beat them through just talking about them and being honest. But actually I find then it doesn't become one massive, massive thing that you can't cope with. It's lots of smaller things. And as you tick them off day to day, you may be just left with 2 or 3 that are the problem ones. And I would suggest doing that with anything that you have that is a big deal and a big problem, because the minute you start not sweating the big stuff, the small stuff is so much easier just to get by day to day. And I was a positive person before, but I'm an incredibly positive person now because I have these little games with myself, and it makes life fun, it makes life easier. But I think everyone has something they're coping with, and actually being aware of people coping with things is really, really important. Knowing that everyone is struggling with small things and big things. Day to day, people are going about their daily business. The person that pushes in front of you as you're trying to kind of get down into the train, or the person that, whose child is having a meltdown when you're trying to kind of be quiet or have a phone call. They're all dealing with something. They're all coping with something. And it might to you seem small, it might to them seem big. But life is just full of these complex, tiny little things that people are dealing with, and they can build up into massive things. I would say being stubborn has actually saved me. It's made my life something that I'm excited about and that I'm positive about day to day. And I think I have my parents to thank for that, because they're both incredibly stubborn too. And it made me fight back. And now, when I say this, I think people don't believe me, but it's the honest truth. If someone said to me, you could take the Parkinson's away from your life right now, then sure, I'd take it. If there was a cure, I'd take it. But if I could go back and not have been diagnosed, then I'm not 100% sure that I would, because the person I am today is because of Parkinson's. It showed me what I can do. It showed me how to break stuff down into manageable chunks. I never knew this before. It made me realise the people that I had around me were important and special and looking out for me all the time. And sometimes you don't know those things unless something tests you. And so I'm glad to have Parkinson's, and I'm glad to have these 99 plus things that bother me every day, because they're there to test me and to prove that I'm alive. And if you're not living, then you don't have these things bothering you day to day. It's good if things are bothering you. It means you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. So I'd love to talk to anyone who has problems that they'd like to break down, because I love getting my icons set out and breaking them down for people. And as a graphic designer, this was fun to make. But I'm Emma. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's at 29, and I'm a better person for it. Thank you.